everybody. Welcome back to our show. I am very delighted to have Paul Graziano with us. Some call him Paul Revere. Why is he called Paul Revere? It's because he's been putting community boards and local civic organizations on high alert. His message is, the developers are coming. The developers are coming to tear down your homes and replace them with apartment houses. What is this alert about? It's a plan by our dear Mayor Adams to tear down small outer borough communities in order to allow the largest New York City developers to build high-rises in their place in the outer boroughs. In the name of right-sounding words, foster vibrant neighborhoods. Doesn't it sound beautiful? Relocate small businesses so they can be near their customers. Create gentle density and missing middle housing. Oh yes, build housing that is more affordable. Watch out, when you hear that word affordable, watch out. They are calling this zoning package the City of Yes. People listen to the bright-sounding words. They don't think, what does it mean? They are blinded by its brightness. They only hear hope. They do not research into what has already happened when those bright-sounding words have been put into effect. Today, Paul Graziano is going to help us find out what those bright-sounding words actually mean.
Okay, Vicki Bean wrote a phony report 15 years ago. And the phony report stated that white, wealthy neighborhoods were downzoned and poor neighborhoods of color were upzoned. And I can tell you, as the guy who did the rezonings, it's a lie. It's an out and out lie. And I looked at her data, and her data was so messed up. I actually wrote, for anybody who wants it, I wrote a thesis on this. I mean, I didn't, but I could have probably submitted this as a thesis. It's about 2,000 pages long on this. I did deep analysis on this and showed that the things she was saying were upzonings weren't. And the things she was saying were downzonings weren't. And the areas that she called white weren't. And the areas she called areas of color weren't. It was not true. And I pulled all the demographics and all the income, and I looked at hundreds of thousands of properties, because I'm a freak. Okay, that's really what it comes down to. But I did
thank
that.
God for you.
I did that to prove her wrong. And you know what happened? She disappeared for a few years, and in the last year, Dan Garodnick, the chair of the city council, at the city planning commission, and used to be on the city council, is waving her report around again and quoting from it.
Wow.
It's all over the news. And I'm saying to myself, again, propaganda, not reality. It's a sick situation that we are living in, where the people in power can write their own narrative that is completely false. So that's what we're dealing with. And the only way, in my opinion, that we can stop this is by threatening to throw them out of office or by removing ourselves. That's about it. I don't see any other way. In terms of the Metro North rezoning, I think that there's going to be pushback. I think you were telling me you spoke and everything. I think there probably will be some minimal lowering of the density, but it probably won't be enough.
No.
Not at all. And the question is, and this is in Christie's district. So the question is, now we have something in the city called member deference. What is member deference? Member deference is that if your council person wants a rezoning or doesn't want a rezoning in her or his district, the rest of the council will follow them. So if Christie says, I don't want the Metro North rezoning, by member deference, the rest of the council will follow. In most cases in the last 50 years, this has happened. It has only been in the last few years that they have been trying to blow up member deference. It is not law. It is a custom, like the filibuster. in the Senate. It is a custom. And now there is a move to eliminate member deference because we need development and we need housing and all of this stuff that is or is not true. So the question is, does she negotiate to knock this thing down and then say, okay, I've got it to where we can live with it and therefore I'm going to approve it? Or does she say no and do they listen? Or does she say no and they run roughshod over her? And I don't know the answer to that because we're in a different world than we were even 4 years ago where they would probably, this thing would have been DOA already. There's also a public component to it because you have the Metro North and all of this other stuff. So they're gonna call this a citywide action, even though it only takes place in a small geographic area, of citywide interest. Things that are of citywide interest, well, that's not a member district thing. It's a citywide thing. Therefore, member deference shouldn't really apply to that. So I'm just throwing that out there. Yes, sir.
I understand that the purpose of your presentation is perhaps the tactical importance of actually mobilizing to stop this vote. But I'm also curious.
Stop this vote?
To block the passage of the city again.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I am also quite curious, clearly your product of this stuff, if you have your own proposals for how you could actually solve this 70-year-long housing crisis.
Well, again, the housing crisis is defined by statistics. The statistics are written and skewed by people that the data is not necessarily correct.
Right.
And that's kind of what I was saying about Vicky Bean with what she was saying. It was not correct. So here's what I'll say. I'm full disclosure. I ran for city council a bunch of times. I just ran last year. And I've lost, and it's obviously I have a sparkling personality, so it's not that, right? Okay, so I proposed, and I've proposed it for the last 10 years, you know how you build affordable housing? You force every developer to build affordable housing in every R6 through R10 development that they build. Guess what? Some people don't think that's a good idea, meaning the developers and the mayor and the people who are taking money from the developers. Other cities have done this. Inclusionary zoning, mandatory inclusionary housing, and ZQA, zoning for quality and affordability, that was what de Blasio did. It was an utter failure. Utter failure. Why was it an utter failure? I give you East New York as a prime example. East New York, which has a lot of needs, a lot of issues, they could use a lot of affordable housing. They spent 5 years rezoning East New York. By the time they finished the rezoning, the speculative value of the property had gone up 700%.
Wow.
All the developers who knew what the zoning was going to be were circling around. They put the AMI, that's the number that they pin the rents to for the affordable units. This is an area where a family of 4 was making $40,000 a year, and the units were at $140,000. The affordable units. Okay? So that happened. Everywhere they did this. That is not the answer. The answer is low density areas that don't have infrastructure cannot support this. And we're not getting any more infrastructure. We have one new subway line. It took 100 years to build on the east side of Manhattan, costing $2 billion. $2 billion a foot? I'm sorry, not $2 billion a foot. $2 billion a block, I believe, is what it was. But a crazy amount of money. Right? It took 20-something years to build the Grand Central Long Island Railroad, the East Side Access Tunnel. Okay? We're way beyond the big city building stuff of 100 years ago. We can't even get the basic services that we pay our taxes for. So, and we're not being rescued by the state or the federal government. So you can't just drop density in low density areas that will never be able to support it. And in the places that need, is there a need for affordable housing in this community? Probably, but not a lot. Is there a need for affordable housing in other communities? Absolutely. Are they building real affordable housing in those communities? No. So how do you do it? You say, we're going to change the law. Instead of putting in a bogus universal affordability preference where no developer is going to use that 20% bump, you force every developer that in all R6 through R10 or now R12 zones now that they've increased the FAR up to an 18 from where it was, from a 12 to an 18, you force a developer to build X percentage of truly affordable units in each of those. And then if they want more on top of that, then you give them more and they build more. But you put in a baseline. There is no baseline. Why? That's not the free market. That's going to be their answer. You can't do that. That's taking away my property rights. Well, isn't it changing our property rights by taking away the things that we want to protect our communities? That doesn't seem to be a cogent argument with this administration. Even though you saw me quoting the Department of City Planning, when they rezoned this, there was a mismatch. We fixed it. That's why we did this. How many quotes are on that? And that's for every neighborhood they did. This follows best practices, etc. All of that is out the window because every administration is run by a different person. And that's where we are. It's a cult of personality, whoever it might be. We are at the whims of a single person. That's the mayor. He controls every agency. The only stopgap is the council. They are certainly not perfect. That is for sure. So that's where we're at. I hope that answers your question.
No, I mean, yeah, it is helpful. I don't want to hear too many more time, but it does seem to be that your answer implies that we have to have a top-down conception of the planning of the problem. The problem is actually higher financial speculation throughout the entire nation.
Correct. This is nationwide. It's not just here. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
If you take a ride on the 245 train, you can see that the face of that area has changed. And you have gigantic buildings there that were supposed to give us affordable housing for Bronx.
Correct.
Never happened. I know one college graduate that tried to get a studio apartment in one of those buildings, and the price was $3,000.
Yeah.
What is she doing? She's still living at home with mom because she couldn't afford it. So, in addition to that, now they want to kick us out of our house, our homes. As you mentioned before, this community is very diverse. So who are they helping? Is it the browns, the blacks, the white? Who? We are all
The
here.
developers.
This is our home, our community. Work hard to get our homes. Where are the politicians that are backing us? Now, even getting the police are afraid of doing things. Everybody's afraid. So we are electing these people.
That's
to
correct.
make
You need to look very
That's right.
closely who you're electing.
Take us out of our homes.
I want to read you. Thank you. There's nothing more I can say, but I do want to read you something very quickly. This came out a few hours ago. Just give me 1 second. Community Board 12 in Queens. Folks, Community Board 12. This article came out today. Don't disrespect us with City of Yes. Community Board Land Use Committee says no to housing plan. This is Jamaica, South Jamaica, St. Albans, Hollis. Okay?
What, 12 is in Jamaica?
Queens.
And Queens.
Queens.
We have
Queens.
one over here.
Yeah, but
Queens.
that's in Queens.
Queens Board 12, not Wakefield, Eastchester, not there. Queens. So, I just want to read you this because this, as I said, this just came out and it answers everything that you're saying. None of the members, and by the way, this is a community that's,
Where do you want to put
85% or 90% African American, right? None of the members of Community Board 12's Land Use Committee were for Mayor Adams' City of Yes housing plan after listening to a presentation from the Department of City Planning on May 7th. In fact, many felt downright disrespected by the proposal, which they said was created without any community input. The mayor's plan calls for upzoning single-family areas to make way for denser multifamily buildings. The measure would allow low-density housing areas with 3 to 5. I'm going to skip over this because I told you all of this. Okay. Renee Hill, a CB12 member, said she does not. Guys, please, thank you. Renee Hill, a CB12 member, said she does not consider herself a, quote, not in my backyard person. But she, along with others on the committee and the community board, bought their homes because of the area's low density. She doesn't believe the housing plan will work as intended, and worse, it will drive up prices in residential areas, pushing homeowners out. We are trying to keep our homes, Hill said. We are middle-class people who want to stay here. We do not want to move into Long Island. Hill said developers are renting single bedrooms for upwards of $3,000 a unit, and if the administration wants to solve the housing crisis, probably it should put a cap on rent instead of investing in high-rise hotels. It should be $650 or $750, Hill said about rent at apartment complexes. This is ridiculous. This is an insult. This is disrespectful to us, and you should tell the mayor, stay away from us. He needs to, because he will not be elected again. You can let him know that we are going to vote Republican if we have to. Okay. This is Southeast Queens. Okay, wait. Michelle Keller said instead of the DCP trying to defend the mayor's housing plan, it has sent different representatives to the board's meetings trying to, quote, cajole us. You need to listen to the taxpayers and the constituents here, Keller said. You are trying to tell us here that having these high-rise buildings or accessory dwelling units is going to be minimal and is going to help us. The elephant in the room is that you are helping these people who are coming from these other countries, and now you want us to be on board with that. I'm not on board with that. Stop acting like you are for us, Keller said to the DCP representatives. I do not even know where you live. But when that happens, most of us will be in a pickle, and we will have to deal with the taxes on our homes, and the quality of life has already gone down the drain. Lynette Townsley said she shared Hill and Keller's sentiments. I hope that you hear us. Even before all this building came up, we had some challenges in our community. If we want true partnership in city planning, we should be helping you to develop it from the foundation so that it wouldn't get to this point of frustration. The presentation makes me feel like you really don't respect us or think we are not intelligent people. We are. Okay, and it goes on from there. But I think you understand that this is happening. The response to this is happening, partially, luckily, because people are clued into what's going on. I think partially because of me and other folks out there. But it is the classic example of a paternalistic governmental push on, what they think of as unknowing people, what is it, the leader is good, the leader is great kind of mentality that, we're doing this and you're going to love it. And all you have to do is do this. And the best part is, and some folks who are on Community Board 11, when you ask them questions, they can't answer them. They are reading off of a script that someone wrote for them. I've been at these meetings. I was just at Board 10 2 days ago. I was at Board, which board was I at last week? At Board 8 and Board 5 in Queens. I'm going to be at Boards 14 and Board 11 in Queens next week. I'm going to be at Board 8 next week in the Bronx, Riverdale. So my point is, every time they're presenting, they're reading off of a sheet of paper. When you ask them a question, for example, are those ADUs going to be affordable? No. Are the transit apartments going to be affordable? No. So how is this an affordable housing program? We'll get back to you on that. That's beyond my pay grade. I'll have to ask the higher ups. This is literally the responses. But don't worry, this is the best thing we can do because we have a housing crisis. I'm just telling you the rhetoric. That's exactly what's going on. Sir, and then back to you.
Yeah, I want to thank you on behalf of everybody here for educating us on this topic. I think it's really important. I think for us as homeowners and folks that just live here, we want to know how we can help the movement that you started in Queens and New York. And for that, I think we need to understand how we can help the Allerton Avenue Association so that then we can establish communication with you guys and see how we can coordinate. Right?
I'm here because we have established.
So
I'm here, yes.
Like what we want to know is how concretely, what do you need from us? Where do we need to be And, yeah, I think that's just to start off. The second one is, you asked for solutions. I don't know.
I didn't ask for, they
No,
asked
I
for
know.
solutions.
Yeah, no, I know, like, I think in your presentation, how does this not trigger, an electrification review when you're onboarding this many people? How does Con Ed assure
When
that
you-
they're going to be even able to service this area? So like, I think that there's a lot of things that you can do on the legal side, but I think.
But you know what, that costs money. That costs
Yeah, but
money.
there's also a lot of pro bono out there that. I mean,
Not for that,
Listen,
no,
listen.
I'm just
they
saying,
won't
like,
touch
there
it.
might be something
So-
that we could do, but.
I was involved in a big pro bono case a decade ago. They wanted to build the largest mall in Queens next to Citi Field. And I was one of the 27 plaintiffs that stopped it. And we had a pro bono lawyer, and it lasted for 5 years, and we won big. Now that's where Steve Cohen wants to build a casino. The reason we stopped it is it's on public parkland. They want to build a casino on public parkland, and they wanted to build the largest mall in the city on public parkland. But that was a very good case. We had a very good chance of winning, and we had some people, the same lawyers who won Westway in the early 80s, who are now in their 80s, were the pro bono lawyers for that case. This thing is a monster. And I say that in all seriousness. I think we have a case because, as I said, this EIS is garbage. Clearly, we know that. But we need either a ton of money or a lot of really good pro bono lawyers. And
We
we
need
can't
community.
and we need community,
That
yes.
sticks
Yes.
together.
Correct.
That if you know a lawyer on your block,
Yeah.
or if somebody else knows a lawyer
It's a
on their
very
block,
public interest.
get everybody together.
Article
to
78
unite.
lawyers. They're very, very specific, and there aren't a lot of them. And again, I'm someone who's been doing this a long time. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but my point that I'm getting at is this is great. You said this is the best turnout you've had in a while, I would assume.
Absolutely.
Yes. This is what happens with civics. I've been in the civic world since I started my own civic when I was 22 years old in my neighborhood. People come together in a crisis. That's what happens. And when everything is fine, people drift away. This is what happens all the time. So here you are.
Consistency
We
is
are
so
in
important.
the biggest crisis of your life. When I ran for council last year, I'm just going to say this. My tagline, again, the mayor is a little more housing in every neighborhood. My tagline was, it all starts with your homes. If your neighborhood gets ruined, the rest doesn't matter. People talk about police and schools and fire. I've got an 8-year-old kid in 2nd grade who I think about 23.5 hours a day and how he's going to turn out, right? But at the end of the day, if my house is in danger, the rest of it doesn't matter because everything revolves around
The ripple
your
effect.
home. It's all based on where your home and where you live, especially if you're a homeowner. Again, tenants too, but homeowners more in particular because you're stakeholders in a different way. So that's why it's important that you're here. That's why it's important that all of the groups around the city are bonding together on this. I mean, it's really important that we do this.
So, I mean, like, in that sense, like, we'd like to hear from the Additonal Association, what can we do to help you guys out?
The first thing is to sign up and put your email down, because I reach out on a monthly basis, and sometimes even more,
Yeah.
when I need us to unite for a cause. This is the biggest cause right now that I need the community to come together on.
I would say, not to interrupt,
Yeah.
I will be getting the flyer tomorrow. I will send it to you. You'll send it to everybody. On top of that, Community Board 11 will be hearing this, full board, next month. Turn out to the community board
The
meeting.
City of Yes Committee has to have a public hearing.
Correct.
And then recommend to the
To the
board.
full board. Right. So we're going to find out because he's on the board.
No,
No.
the committee.
You're on the committee. I'm sorry. That's what I meant. So the point is he's invested and involved in this situation. So he's going to let everybody know when it's happening so that you guys can turn out like this. And believe me, at a typical community board meeting, if 2 people turn out or 4 people turn out, everybody goes, wow, well, that's getting in the way of our business. When 100 people turn out, everybody
Exactly.
starts to sweat.
Our
That's
community
right.
board
Trust me.
meetings do not look like this.
No.
They do not.
No.
And everybody needs to get involved in the community board meetings, to show up
If
So
there's
you-
flyers you want us to go and give out, we'll do that. I mean,
Do
we'll
I have your
volunteer.
name and your number?
Yeah, I mean, we'll do that. I mean, we have to
Great.
find out, and I think anybody else that can pitch in some way, time, money.
That's exactly what I
If
wanna
you
hear.
guys
That's
can't go,
exactly
send
what
your
we need.
kids, send somebody to go, because these politicians will not listen
No.
unless they see our faces there. And
That's
this is
right.
really
Absolutely.
consequential
I'm
for
gonna,
us.
I'm gonna say one other thing. I was at the Community Board 11 meeting 2 weeks ago. They invited me, and I gave this presentation in short. And at the end of it, a number of the members said, what can we do? And I kind of described the similar discussion we're having now. And I said, but I want to make something very clear. There's a huge political portion of this, which is that these people that you've elected are the ones who are making the decisions. And if they're not making the decisions you want them to make, then you have to get rid of them and have someone there who's going to do what you want them to do. They're supposed to represent you.
Right.
And I said, and I have 2 words for you. Marjorie Velasquez. And all hell broke loose at this meeting. People start saying, Mr. Graziano, that's inappropriate. I said, it's totally appropriate. And I didn't mean it from a party
course.
point of view. What I meant was, Marjorie Velasquez promised the community that she would be against the upzoning in Throgsneck for a year or more. And 3 days before the vote, she did a 180.
Right.
And she betrayed her entire community because she was told by the unions.
That's why she lost.
Correct. And she was told by the unions, and she was told by the Speaker of the City Council, we will protect you. And you know what happened? Christie ran on that one issue, and she beat her by 15%. And became the first Republican in 50 years to win in the Bronx. So, and again, I'm a nonpartisan guy. I'm not here to talk party, but I'm talking about consequences. Consequences of your actions as an elected official. You have to make sure, I don't think you're going to have a problem with Christie on this issue at all. But it's the other council members who are not being honest with their constituents, and they have to be held to it or gotten rid of and replaced with people who are going to do the will of their
We
votes.
have been instructing that everyone write their council member in opposition of the city of yes.
Thank you.
You did a great job.
This is Speak Up. This is Sandra Shelby. Till next time, goodbye.